Most people who fail to change are not weak. They are not lazy. They are not lacking information or motivation or desire. They know exactly what needs to shift. They have read the books, watched the videos, written the journal entries, made the promises. But there is a force at work in most people's lives that nobody talks about loudly enough, a quiet, invisible gravity that keeps pulling them back to exactly who they used to be. And until you understand that force, all the motivation in the world won't be enough to overcome it. Henderson understood this better than most. He just didn't understand it soon enough. He was the kind of man who genuinely wanted to be better. Not in a vague, passive way. Henderson actively tried. Every few months something would ignite in him, a restlessness, a dissatisfaction, a clear-eyed moment of honesty where he could see exactly who he was and exactly who he wanted to become. And in those moments Henderson would commit. He would change his routine, set new goals, carry himself differently for a few weeks, and for a while it would feel real. It would feel like this time was actually different. Then slowly, almost imperceptibly, it would unravel. Henderson couldn't figure out why. He blamed himself, his discipline, his focus, his follow-through. He told himself he was the problem, that something fundamental in his character kept betraying him. But the truth was hiding in plain sight, in the very environment he returned to every single day without questioning it. Henderson's closest friends had known him since his early 20s. Good people, genuinely. Loyal, familiar, comfortable. But they knew a specific version of Henderson, the one who made jokes instead of serious moves, the one who talked about dreams without chasing them, the one who was always almost ready but never quite there. And without meaning any harm, without a single bad intention among them, they related to Henderson as that person. Every gathering, every conversation, every shared laugh quietly reinforced the old identity. When Henderson would show up changed, trying to be different, the environment around him didn't change with him. It just waited patiently for him to come back. And Henderson, needing connection the way all humans do, always came back. His apartment wasn't helping either. Same layout, same routines, same chair where he sat every evening doing the same things he had always done. Change requires new inputs, new cues, new patterns of thought, and Henderson was surrounding himself with the exact same everything while expecting different results from the inside out. The moment that cracked it open came unexpectedly, as the best moments always do. Henderson was helping a colleague clear out an old office when he came across a dusty stack of leadership books someone had left behind. He almost walked past them, but one title snagged his attention, and he flipped it open to a random chapter during his lunch break, more out of curiosity than intention. The chapter was about environmental design. The author argued simply and precisely that human behavior is not primarily driven by willpower. It is driven by context, that the reason most people revert to old patterns is not a failure of character, but a failure to change the context in which the character operates. You cannot consistently act like a new person inside an environment that was built for the old one. Henderson read that paragraph 3 times. He sat back and looked at his life with entirely new eyes. Not at his discipline, not at his motivation, at his context, at the people who expected the old Henderson to show up, at the spaces that had old Henderson's fingerprints all over them, at the invisible architecture of his daily life that had been quietly voting against every change he tried to make. He hadn't been failing because he was weak. He had been failing because he kept trying to grow in soil that only knew how to produce one thing. Henderson didn't burn his friendships down, but he became intentional in a way he never had been before. He started spending more time around people who were building, growing, moving, people who didn't have a fixed idea of who Henderson was supposed to be. He changed small things about his physical space. He broke routines that had become cages disguised as comfort, and gradually, the gravity that had always pulled him back began to lose its grip. Here is the truth about why most people never change. It is rarely about who they are on the inside. It is almost always about what they have built around the outside. Your environment is either your biggest ally or your most consistent opponent, And most people never stop to ask which one theirs is. If change keeps slipping through your fingers, stop looking inward for a moment. Look around. Look at the people, the places, the daily patterns that surround you. Ask honestly, does this environment belong to who I am becoming or only to who I used to be? Because you cannot outgrow a life you refuse to redesign. If this story moved you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it today.